So, following these great keynotes, and after this video where you have hopefully learned how to pronounce the city where Systemair is based, we reach the final part of today, our panel discussion. And here it's time to talk about the future of sustainable HVAC. Do we practice what we preach? We will ask ourselves, how can we as an HVAC sector do even more than we do today? What do we need to do to reinvent the built environment together? And as said, do we really practice what we actually preach? I'm very happy to discuss these and more questions with a very distinguished panel, and I'd like to introduce them to you right now. First up, joining us from the UAE, is Ms. Mais Albaqaeen. Mais is Associate Director at Black and White Engineering. Black and White Engineering is a very renowned consultancy here with a strong sustainability focus. Mais, happy to welcome you here. Second up is joining us from Germany. Second up is joining us from Germany, Mr. Günther Mertz. Günther. Günther is Secretary General of the German associations FGK, RLT, and BTGA. So, in a nutshell, most important German HVAC associations. He's a renowned voice in our industry, and we are very happy to have him here with us in Dubai today. Okay. Always happy to catch up. Then someone coming from a small country in Europe with Alps, koalas, and a spread called Vegemite. His name is Markus Lattner. He doesn't require much of an intro. International Director of Eurovent, and Managing Director of Eurovent Middle East.
Hello, Morten.
Warm welcome, Markus. After that, we have Avin Gidwani. Avin is the CEO of BNC Industry Networks. It's a very renowned market intelligence company here in the UAE, having track of all the building intelligence needs you require. Avin, very happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
Also to mark here, Avin brought his father, Chandru. Chandru, hi to you. I don't know where you sit. Very happy to have you here, a long partner of the Systemair Group as well. Then, my friends and colleagues, last but not least, Mr. Khalil Ghazzi, Managing Director of Systemair Saudi Arabia, and Jan Svallingson, Business Development Director at our daughter company, Frico. Warm welcome to you as well. So, before I ask some maybe tough questions, maybe weird, we can all ask you to participate in this debate today. If you have questions, ask them. Just join systemair.com/letsvent or scan the QR code right here on the screen. I will show it later again as well. Pose all kinds of questions, no matter how weird. Although to say we have a moderator that is filtering them in case it's too weird. So all participate, systemair.com/letsvent. We may not be able to answer all of your questions today because the time is short and we want you to enjoy this beautiful pavilion a little bit more. That's why we will continue debating tomorrow on LinkedIn. Just go to our LinkedIn page, click on events and join today's event. And all the questions that cannot be answered today will be answered tomorrow by our panelists in the chat. So feel free, go to LinkedIn, join the page. Good. Guys, you and ladies, sorry. You may have wondered today, why are these lollies lying in front of you, right? This is for our so-called warm-up session. So I asked every one of you to take a lolly, please. I will bring one over.
Yellow side or blue side?
So the blue side means yes, and the yellow sign means no. So I would just like to see your opinion on some of the issues we are mentioning. First one up, yes or no, belt-driven fans should be a thing of the past. Yes or no? I see that we have one differing answer. Mais? Or was that a no or yes from you?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Ah, okay. Okay, then we all agree. But we appreciate differing answers. Okay, we don't need unanimity here. Of course, belt-driven fans have some sort of reason still in certain areas, especially when it comes to a high pressure that is required. Next one up. Are current regulations enough to drive people towards more sustainable HVAC technologies? Okay, that's also a very clear no. How surprising. Well, the bird is flying away. Cheap is always more expensive.
That's a tough
So
question.
here it's
to
a
answer.
bit
You can say
differing.
like that.
Exactly, yes.
So Khalil, maybe elaborate a little.
Well, it depends exactly. Sometimes it's a bit difficult for people to understand that when you buy something cheap, people think about it today, what I'm paying for it today. They don't think about how long it's going to last me before I have to change it again and again and again. They don't look at the picture of buying an expensive product that would last for much longer than buying a cheap product that's costing me cheap today, but expensive on the long run.
Yeah.
So.
Nice words. Totally agreed with that.
May I?
Yeah.
I think on the subject of cheap is always more expensive. I think it's very conventional to say that, you know, if you pay more money, you expect a better quality product, but that's not necessarily the case. I came from a manufacturing industry where we had a policy to sell the highest quality of product at market-tested prices, and that was the principle of the business. So I think that for manufacturers, I think it's really important to say that we need to make economical products and just still make them high quality. So it's just my take on that.
True words. I think we can all agree with this, and we can continue debating this in the deeper discussion later. Last questions for our warm-up round. Are you a fan of the Climate Control Middle East Awards? Yes or no?
Why not? Why not?
Does it exist?
That's the question.
Does it exist already?
It does exist, this event, yeah. If you don't know, just say no.
Okay.
Okay, Khalil, why did you say no?
Because to be honest, I was not aware.
So I guess we all like it because Frederick, who is here today, offers amazing piano solos, and last time it was Queen or Pink Floyd, I remember. Truly impressive. So with this short warm-up session over, we go deeper into the topics. And I remind you once again, systemair.com, let's vent for our Slido tool. Feel free to ask any question you have. So coming up to the deeper panel discussion of today. Speaking from your professional backgrounds, how sustainable do you consider the built environment in your region or country of focus today? Do you think that words match reality? I'd like to start here with our longest traveled guest, Günther.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Well, the situation of today's situation, we cannot expect that there is now such a huge stock of certified sustainable buildings. But I see very positive signals. And the positive signals, now we look to the future, are coming especially from the real estate industry. They are under pressure. And that's why, two examples, they published recently the guidelines for corporate governance and the global reporting initiative. And in both regulations, there are really, the sustainability is really a topic. So, and why have they done that? They are under pressure. They are under pressure from the tenants. Because the tenants, they want, due to image reasons or whatever, they want certified buildings. That's good for the picture of the company. And they want low running costs of the buildings. That's what we just discussed, cheap or expensive. And therefore, I think this pressure will help us also for the HVAC sector. When we have a look to the energy demand, energy consumption side, we have, let me say, very good regulation and standards in Europe. We have the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. We have the eco-design guidelines, energy-related products. And now, in the next step, we will have the so-called environmental product declaration, which is also very important for the manufacturers of fans and air handling units. So very good signals, but there are two crucial points. First, we saw already, that's the point that we do not have any legal regulation concerning indoor air quality. And in Germany, we saw the result of this lack. In wintertime, in Germany, less than 10% of the school buildings are equipped with a mechanical ventilation system. Less than 10%. And we have cold regions. And the result was in wintertime, we saw a lot of press photos where the pupils are sitting in the classroom with the caps and gloves and coat and so on. And that's really not sustainable. So that is the crucial point concerning indoor air quality. And the second point is we need sustainability, but we also need sustainable refurbishment. And that's for me the most important point when we talk about sustainability. In Germany, last sentence, in Germany, more than 50% of the running air conditioning and ventilating systems are older than 35 or 40 years. And we cannot expect that these systems are running efficient or have any contribution to indoor air quality or something like that.
Very interesting to hear, actually. Handing over to Mais, how do you see this in the region over here?
Yeah, well, if we talk about the GCC region, obviously we can see more and more commitment from the governments and from clients, even developers, towards sustainability. We have local energy codes that are being implemented on all new projects and even on refurbishment projects. And we have the regional sustainability rating systems that are tailored to this area or this environment in different GCC countries, in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. So there's definitely good efforts being made. We are seeing more movement towards the net zero built environment as well in the projects. At the same time, we must not forget here in this region, the climate is harsh and there's a heavy reliance on energy for basic needs, such as clean water, for example. There's a heavy reliance on desalination plants to produce clean water, which is not energy efficient, obviously, and heavy reliance on HVAC throughout most of the year, basically. So we really need this gives like more challenges to this region, I guess, to be sustainable, which means that concentrated efforts are required from everyone in the spectrum of the construction industry to actually be sustainable, to actually practice what we preach.
So you also think that here it needs see a certain movement going, but it needs a bit more pressure.
Definitely,
a better push. Avin, you having an overview of all the figures that can be imagined, what's your take on this one?
Well, I think we're probably a decade behind Europe, if not more, in terms of sustainability. I think we do a good job of marketing sustainability. I think it's picking up, at least on paper. But I think there's a huge gap between what needs to happen and reality. I think there's a structural problem where the major investors in real estate in this region, at least when let's talk about Dubai because it's too vast a question otherwise, have no say really on what they get. So for example, I want to buy a property tomorrow. When I go to buy the property, I'm not even told what brand of products I'm going to get, let alone sustainability or what type of air conditioning. I have zero say in this, and I have zero incentive in it. I have basically a list price, and that's it. I can either pick it up at that price or not. It's as simple as that. It's the Wild West when it comes to property. And so I think that it's only the goodwill of a developer that would say, hey, listen, I want to make this property sustainable because it's good for my marketing. There's no push from somebody. As an investor in property, not as BNC, but as an investor in property, I can tell you that I have zero say in this. Unless I build my own building, where I can then influence the decision, that's different. So basically on large developments, I don't think we're seeing enough sustainability initiatives. And I think that simple examples, I think in an earlier presentation, we talked about sleeping with the window open. In the vast majority of multi-story buildings, you cannot sleep with the window open because there are no windows to open. So, they're all sealed. So if these fundamental design changes aren't made, we can't have a real conversation about sustainability. We're still dealing with some basics.
So you would say also you may have a demand from people, but even if you have this demand, it's very unlikely that it's actually met.
Right. So basically, the structure, the connection in the industry has to change. The owners have to have a greater voice in the process. There has to be, and this can only happen through government mandate, where you say, this is how you have to lay it out. You have to part with this much information to the end user. If that's not insisted upon, there has to be a rating. Just like, when you go to buy a car now, there's a sticker on every car and it tells you the rating of the car. It's green or red or orange or whatever it is in terms of energy efficiency. When I'm going to buy a property, no one's telling me this. So I can't determine if the property I'm going to buy right now is going to be energy efficient, if there's going to be a better ROI or not. I make the decision strictly on the basis of, is it in a good location, is it a good rate per square foot? Very basic. So the conversation, we can have very sophisticated conversations in rooms like this, but when you hit the ground, the real estate ground, that isn't what's happening out there. It's very price driven. Yeah.
One sentence. I cannot fully agree from the German side. In Germany, in 2020, we had a bit more than 7,000 certified sustainable buildings, according to the German Sustainable Building Council. 7,000 is not too much, okay, but it's more than 20% compared to the year before. So I think there is a demand for this development.
I'm speaking strictly about Dubai, and strictly about Dubai, and it's no reflection on whether there's going to be an increase. And percentage-wise, we might see a 100% increase, but if it goes from 10 to 20 in the UAE, it's still a drop in the ocean. So what we are looking at with climate change talks and so on, we're looking for a step change. We're saying that overnight somebody needs to say that every building needs to do this, and that's not happening. It's not happening in the foreseeable future.
Maybe here, Avin, then to move on to Khalil. Khalil, you are selling the products every day. Okay, the products might be good, but how do you see the projects where they are being delivered?
Yeah, I agree here actually with Avin. When it comes to the, let's say, GCC, the concept of sustainability is not yet well known. They just started to get introduced to it more and more. And as, let's say, intensive gas and oil-based economy is very difficult, or was very difficult to get out of this loop and go towards sustainable solutions. But we are seeing now, with the new technologies being developed now, and we are seeing this, and we are seeing this shift moving step by step. Mainly also with a lot of initiatives launched by the government, as my colleague Ole has showed earlier, whether in UAE or in Saudi, a lot of money being spent, or let's say promised to be spent in the next 30, 40 years to achieve these plans. If that money is really spent there, maybe we can reach where Europe is today, or we can catch up to Europe. But of course, we have to see how this development is going to happen.
Any last comments in this first question round? Mais?
Just one point. A good tool for developers and investors is available, which is the sustainable rating systems, which is a great tool for them to showcase and actually measure their sustainable projects, and kind of a marketing tool for their projects. Maybe it's not very much utilized here in the region, but these kind of tools are also gives incentives to these projects.
I would comment on that. This is exactly what you said, a marketing tool.
Yeah, it
I mean, in the beginning, when a building is commissioned and you have the paperwork done, the building is usually assessed only on the paperwork, not the actual installations, and you receive a sustainable certificate. But what happens with the building later on is completely ignored. And I know of a study from Abu Dhabi, for example, where they compared the energy consumption before and after one routine maintenance. And the average across 10 buildings, the average saving was 27%. So that shows that we can talk about sustainable certificates and all, but what we actually would need, especially in a region where we have such an extensive dependence on cooling, is that the government needs to look at the existing build stock. That means we need to see recommissioning, periodical recommissioning or mandatory building inspections from government side in order to build up the pressure that the building operator is keeping the buildings in order.
Exactly. I mean, the rating systems encourage these practices, encourage the recommissioning, the measurement and verification after 1 year of operating the project or for any refurbishment projects. But you really need regulations or enforcement to actually...
To then close this first question here, basically we might have two different paces, but in both regions we still need to do more. We are not at the end of the way. We need to push more. We need to demand regulation, increase the pressure in order to really achieve a more sustainable future. And Günther also mentioned refurbishments. I think that's equally important down here than up in Europe. Refurbish with good quality refurbishment.
Sustainable refurbishment.
Yeah, sustainable refurbishment and long-term maintenance, also what Markus has mentioned. It's sold, yeah, but then it's still being used for a longer time. Now I have a question for Jan over here. Jan, HVAC and the built environment, as you know, are subject to many regulations. If you were to pick one of these regulatory measures that you believe make a real difference in sustainability, which one would you choose and why?
Maybe I will choose one a little bit not so normal, but I'm thinking of United Nations Agenda 2030. It consists of 17 sustainable goals. Maybe we don't talk too much about that in our industry, but I think that is a very important, let's say, group of goals put together. And coming from Frico, working with air curtains, I'm very happy that they have one goal called, we're talking about the supply chains, mainly goal 12. And they talk about something about the food waste that Olle mentioned in his speech earlier. That's enormous food waste that we have today. So United Nations Agenda 2030, goal number 12. I would pick that one.
Okay, goal number 12. That sounds good.
Go for that.
Let's see, Günther, you know many regulations. Which one is your favorite?
In the moment, the favorite is the European standard EN 16798. Because
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Who knows what this one is?
That's why I will explain it. It's the first regulation where indoor air quality is not only recommended. They had in this standardization, in this rule, they have 3 categories for indoor air quality. Category 1, 2, and 3, and they show the way how you can reach one of these categories, and that's why I'm quite happy about this regulation, because it's the first step in the right direction concerning indoor air quality.
Markus, can you repeat that, please?
16798.
Right, that's expert.
Absolutely.
Expert.
Absolutely.
I'm good with numbers, bad with names.
Markus, which one would you choose?
If I look at the specifically the Middle East region, I would say I would pick a regulation of qualification requirements of engineers and technicians. I think this is one of the biggest aspects which we are lacking here in the region, that we require certain qualifications. On a more global level, I would actually would wish for a trade scheme where import taxation is based on energy performance.
Maybe something to add, Khalil?
Well, I would choose probably carbon emission offsets. I've seen that regulation in Europe, for example, especially for this region. I've seen it in Europe working very well. It has pushed companies to find alternative solutions in order, to save on the carbon emissions they are producing. They have to pay the cost for that. So they were pushed to find alternative, efficient, innovative solutions. And I believe this is something we could also have in this region also.
I think maybe the good thing about this, how Olle mentioned in his presentation also, is this is a technology-neutral system. You set a
Exactly.
cap for CO2, for the carbon emissions, but leave it up to the industry which way to go.
Exactly.
Avin, maybe a last remark in this?
Well, I think both Dubai and Abu Dhabi municipalities are working on a building code or a building regulation. It's been stuck in the process, and I think that if this regulation is to come out to give us a minimum standard for a sustainable building, I think it would help consulting engineers, end users, the entire chain, just up the standard. So we say, here's the minimum bar that you need to meet, or this is the gradation of a sustainable building. So I think we need that regional standard coming out from the municipalities. Okay, so that's what I would probably pick.
Mais, anything to add in this respect?
I would say ideally it should be combinations of regulations because they support each other at the end of the day. But if I would to choose, I would say anything that will support the reduce part of the cycle, reduce, reuse, recycle. Anything that will look at reducing the demand for energy. So one example or one main example is regulations on the performance of the building envelope. Minimum efficiency requirements for the building envelope and materials to be used, followed by the use of recovery systems and renewable energies.
Anyone to add? Otherwise, I would say, okay, we again see certain differences. Jan approaching it from a wider angle under the UN sustainability goals, which are super important. Günther naming the specific regulations. I think in Europe we have many to choose from. Meanwhile, also thinking about eco-design, the F-gas regulation. And then I kind of sense that in the region, it's maybe not so much to choose from, but we really call for some more smart regulations to be able to help the sector and to push your work forward. Next question to all of you. So what do we need to do to push sustainability in our sector to the next level? If you could do something, what would you do? Maybe Khalil, to start with you.
What do we need to do to push sustainability? Well, I would say we have three more major things we have to work on. First, the government has to make strict regulations related to sustainability. Second, they have to push the consultants, designers, the building sectors, the HVAC companies to follow these regulations. At the same time, the government is also able to provide incentives for the people who are following these incentives, having more sustainable buildings, and also maybe putting some penalties on the people who don't. Because today, sustainability is expensive, and our business is expensive. Try to make it cheaper than old business by providing these incentives to the owners. Like Avin was talking, for example, or Mais was talking about this regulations, for example, or this marketing of this program. But who do we market it for? If I'm an owner and I find it very expensive to build a sustainable building, then I have to question if I really need to pay that much money here. If I'm getting these incentives from the government and I'm having a risk of paying penalty, then yes, it would work. And then most importantly, regardless how much we create innovative systems, we have energy efficient products, we have regulations, we have to educate people. We have to educate people outside our sector. This is where, at the moment, I see from meetings, people, end users, they are not yet familiar with what sustainability is all about. So we have to start, let's say, at a young age, maybe schools, take it, because there's a visions here, that's 2060. That's 2030, that's, 2050, that's 30, 40 years from now. So start working on educating children from now to work with this concept.
Markus, you like to be talking about education. You in Eurovent at least push this topic a lot. Why? So can you confirm what Khalil says?
Yes, education is the key for me to unlock more potential, more saving potentials in the future. The Middle East is traditionally a little bit of a melting pot of cultures and mentalities. We have a lot of experts working, engineers coming from all parts of the world with different backgrounds, different mentalities. I do not see any education for MEP engineers on existing technology. It all comes from individual initiatives from certain manufacturers, but not from a neutral point of view. So Eurovent Middle East, we are celebrating next year our 5th year of being active in this region, and we are planning to launch an academy program specifically for MEP engineers to cover that side, to make people aware what technology is actually out in the market, what does it do, and how can it help you, and how can you think about specifying such a technology in your daily work. That's the one thing. A second part is what I'm missing on an institutional level would be an intergovernmental organization or panel sent or manned by different various ministries which are involved in HVAC matters. That's not only the Ministry of Energy, it's the Ministry of Industry, the Ministry of Education, of Health, of Technology, of Trade, etc. So it's very difficult for an industry association to reach out and find with whom you can talk on that level to drive change. People are changing too many times. Some of the government departments are even competing with each other. So it's extremely complicated and time-consuming to reach out and try to talk and try to bring a certain message across. If we would have an intergovernmental organization touching on cooling, and Eurovent Middle East, we have already suggested that governments down here should actually think about introducing a ministry for cooling, as cooling is such an essential part here. A central organization which covers all the aspects which we would require to talk and be partnering with. That would be my second biggest wish for that side.
I think Ministry of Cooling.
Cool ministry.
Yeah,
cool ministry.
Really
Yeah.
cool ministry.
Why not?
Mais, you were both nodding and looking skeptical.
No, I actually totally agree. I mean, very good points here about the government incentives being very important to actually drive real change. And us as designers, we need to start changing our mentality about sustainability and not consider it as negotiable anymore. It needs to be part of our norm. And already many people are us included as a company and many others are implementing sustainability part of our standard design procedures without the need for going for any certification. But we are still seeing, on the other hand, people being concerned with sustainability being expensive or having any cost penalties on the client but in reality, what we're seeing, it's actually supporting the value engineering process, especially with the possible operating cost savings that come with energy efficiency and sustainability. So as long as we do our analysis and feasibility and select the proper technologies for project, it actually can offer very good savings for the client rather than any cost penalties. So mentality change definitely needed.
I think we all agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Günther, looking at Europe from a European perspective, what do you think?
Well, I fully agree that we need governmental incentives for especially for the refurbishment, and I think we have the best arguments. We made last year a study together with 3 universities, and the question was, how many money do I have to invest to reduce for example, 1 ton of CO2 in the building, new building, but especially for the refurbishment. And the study, all the 3 studies showed very clearly that we have the shortest amortization periods and the best return on investment. And these are our arguments. And that's we cannot reach the goals, the climate protection goals and anything without refurbishment of the stock. Sorry for that when I repeat it, but that's necessary. And therefore we need the incentives, but we need clear thresholds. And not only incentive. We need a factor, and the factor could be the CO2 abatement cost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our petitum.
Thanks a lot. Günther, a last one in this round for Jan. Jan, what do we need to do to push sustainability here?
Okay, thank you. No, I think it's good with regulations. I don't know how let's say, effective punishments are, as Khalil proposed, but maybe for some people, yes. Education, yes, I go for that. 100%. But what it all comes down to, boils down to, you have to, it must be, let's say, understandable for the end user or for the person or the company that pays for the equipment. I mean, I feel it's a gap between, we are talking about sometimes on very high level, on academic level, about, as Greta says, blah, blah, blah sometimes, and maybe it is so. So I think we really have to take it down to ground level so it's really understandable for the end user, because money counts. That is the money talks and something else walks, as you don't know. So,
Avin.
Well, well, you see, I'm not going to speak about Europe again. I'm just talking about the region. I think the top-down approach works very well over here. I'm just going to switch industries. Some time ago, the government decided that you needed to have CCTVs installed at every ingress and egress of every building across the city. New buildings need to have it to get certified, and existing buildings that need to be retrofitted. And if you didn't do it, you know, there's going to be someone to pay for it. And it got done. I mean, it's got done. You go all across Dubai, and it was done. It seemed like an impossible thing. I mean, I'm talking about millions of cameras being installed. This needs a top-down approach. So if sustainability, and you know, the countries are signing up at this high level, they're making a UN commitment to every other country in the world and saying we're going to hit net zero, then they need to take that same top-down approach and say, all right, here are the rules. That's what's really going to be needed, and that's possible in this part of the world. This is not a formula for a different country, but this is a formula for this country with its diversity and its specific economics. So for this country, I think in the absence of a top-down approach, you're not going to see the true change that one wants to see. Okay.
I think, yeah, true words. Any last statement in this round? Khalil, I see.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about something that Avin just mentioned, this top-bottom approach. Yeah, it works in this region. Unfortunately, it is so here. You push people to do it. They have to do it. They're forced to do it. One case, I had a project where it was LEED certified products has to be installed. A top, I would say, iconic project. However, when we went there, we offered our products in EC motors, energy efficient, whatever. And then, of course, the first answer, oh, it's too expensive. No, go back, the old one. Maybe I would suggest, for example, let's say there's a committee in the municipalities that they are licensing the buildings, that committee is able to provide this certification that this building, for example, is sustainable. And then from there, they can get initiatives, as I mentioned earlier, like some incentives, or they can get some, not necessary penalties in a way that they have to pay penalties, but maybe the cost of getting the license is more expensive in a way, somehow. So then they are forced to do it.
I think Günther, maybe the very last comment, because I think we are going in this direction or already there a little bit.
Yeah, well, we have very often the same situation, especially in public projects. There are two pots of money. The first is the investment cost, and the second is the running cost of the building. And they are separately, and that's the problem. We have to mix them. Yeah, that's the point.
And that's a very good last point, with which we are going to switch to the question and answer session. So I hope some of you have used the Slido tool, asked some questions, and I'd like to thank here our Slido master, Hannah, who cannot be with us today. She's sitting in Manila. She has moderated the question. So let's see what the online audience and everyone down here has come up with. So unfortunately, we need this screen. Do you think, now I see it here. First one, do you think the HVACR sector is properly represented in the discussions related to energy conservation in COP26?
No. Yeah, no.
No. Why?
Probably not.
Why
we weren't there. We weren't there. No?
Because you were not there, Jan?
No, I was not correct. No. But I think that was a part of the discussions, because, I mean, talking about the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the overall regulations and norms. I think it was there, but we have not seen the result from it yet. Or maybe they are still discussing, I don't know. You never know. I don't know.
Well, of course, I'm sure the HVAC sector and the building sector was a topic at COP26, but the question was whether we were, what was it, appropriate represented? And that's the question.
I like the next question somehow. What is your biggest challenge when dealing with design consultants? Khalil, maybe.
I'm just going to listen to this.
Okay.
I would say, as Mais mentioned, trying to push them to change their concept about sustainability and new products, design, energy efficient, from a way that they see it, that we're not coming as subjective supplier, but as objectively it is needed. Today, most consultants, let's say if we're talking here, they have been practicing the same for the last, I don't know, decades. Coming now as a EU supplier, Swedish company, telling them, okay, we're going to change that design to this design. First question is going to tell you, no, you just want to use your design. No, I want to use a sustainable, energy efficient product. And this, I would say, the biggest challenge we have.
Okay. I will pass it on to Mais, actually. What is the biggest challenge when you have to work with manufacturers?
Well, again, it's looking at the details and the technical information to support the product, because this is what we are most interested in as consultants. When we try to compare products, we want to have the full information about what this how this product operates, the efficiencies, the technical information behind it, and of course, how much it will cost. So having this information available to consultants would definitely support. Whenever we receive submittals sometimes from manufacturers, it's not always very clear whether these are matching with the specifications of the projects or not. So again, having this information in front of the consultant will definitely help.
I see we are slowly but steadily getting to know us better over here. Maybe Markus, rather introverted question. What is the biggest challenge when dealing with associations?
When I deal with associations?
Yeah.
With yourself.
With myself? A lot of talk and no decisions.
Avin?
Well, I'd like to answer the one about dealing with engineering consultants and suppliers. I think the biggest issue over there, can summarize in one word, it's trust. I think the biggest issue is trust. Engineering consultants have a job to do, and they want to make sure that a manufacturer isn't piddling their product for a commercial purpose and then disguising it under the guise of sustainability or whatever other feel-good factor. And manufacturers, some may be doing it for the right reasons, to have a great product that also serve this good purpose, but it's a function of building that trust. So, and I think once you build the trust with an engineering consultant, they tend to listen much more openly, and that's been my experience with it. It's the early steps is how do you get them to trust you and provide information openly, use third-party data, show them exactly what it is, that it isn't just the vested interest. And once they get that, they realize that, of course, you have a vested interest. You want to sell your product, but can they create a level playing field based on the core technology or the core objective for their project? So you need to speak to them from their objective, and then you'll be okay.
Thanks a lot. One last question. We take it maybe, Markus, for you. Do you agree that clean air should be a human right?
No, because it is not really executable. I mean, whom do you want to sue if you're not provided with clean air? What is clean air? What is the definition of clean?
Günther?
The CO2 level. That's it.
What about the other ingredients? So it's a nice slogan to say clean air should be a human right, but I think we have to be realistic. This perhaps goes more into IQ standards. Why is talking about IQ standards such a difficult matter? Because once you mandate it, some people will get responsible. And then the question goes, who will be made responsible? Is the building owner responsible for the building, for the indoor air quality, and not? When it comes to clean air and human right, I would say we need to look at the building codes. We need to a ventilation system should be a human right. I mean, it should be a human right that I have the opportunity to ventilate, either through a window or with a ventilation system. But clean air, definition of clean air, a little bit tricky in a built environment.
Jan, your last take on this one?
On clean air.
As a human right?
I would go for that. I'm sorry, Martin. Yeah. But,
so let's just use the lollipops for last time. Yes or no for clean air as a human right?
Yes.
That's yes.
I said yes.
No, that's no.
That's
Yellow
yes.
is no,
Okay.
blue is yes.
The blue is yes, right?
Yeah.
Blue.
Should I hold one up for you?
Okay.
Rather unanimous.
Okay.
All right. As said before, this discussion will continue on LinkedIn. Tomorrow, our panelists and us will gladly answer your questions that were posed today. And with this, we come close to the end, which is what we call cool down session. What does this mean? Simple question asked to each one of you. If you were to pick one of your fellow panelists to jointly work on a sustainable solution for our sector, whom would you choose and why? Starting with Mais.
I would choose Systemair, of course. How would it work?
So that means Khalil.
That was actually my answer. I would also choose a designer. So.
Then we have the same opinion, okay.
Yeah.
We are cool down.
Why?
Our work goes hand in hand. I mean, it will be a good collaboration for sure.
Markus, how about you? Please say nothing wrong.
I will take Avin.
Easiest choice.
I have to be neutral when it comes to manufacturers. So.
Jan.
I would take May, because you asked for better explications from the manufacturers to show that the products are sustainable. So yes, we are willing to give you those facts and how, let's say, price-wise they are. So yes, I would choose May.
Avin?
With no offense to Markus, I'm going to choose my friend here from Germany. Okay, just because, like I said, they're a decade ahead. So I think I'd learn something.
Yeah, for me, I also choose Mais as a consultant because I believe that the collaboration can give immediate results. I mean, working, let's say, with Eurovent or working with Germany, this is something long term. But for us as a player, of course, we're looking for something short term now, of course, and then long term. Build from now, seeing immediate results, and then take it on the long term. So,
I would choose everybody who said yes that good indoor air quality is a human right.
That excludes you.
Good one, very good one, Günther. With these final words, let me ask all panelists here to stand up. To everyone over here in Dubai, please stay tuned for one more video because we will repeat some practicalities that are needed. Please stay seated. And we'd like to thank you all. We'd like to thank you to all our honored guests around the globe in the live stream and over here in Dubai for attending this event. We'd like to thank all speakers, keynote speakers that were here today, and all panelists just now for coming here, supporting us. You were truly amazing. We'd like to thank all of you in the global HVACR industry out there, actually, and the building sector, who played their role in driving sustainability each and every day. I think we have learned a lot today, so please, let's vent everyone.